Thank you, and welcome to this meeting of the Russell Cotes Art Gallery and Museum Management Committee. I'm Lawrence Williams, and I'm the Deputy Chair of the Management Board. The reason I'm doing this is because we have an election this afternoon. But before that, can I ask the Democratic Services Officer to read out the housekeeping notices regarding the meeting and how it's going to be managed?
Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, or their ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And item 1's apologies. Do you have any apologies?
Yes, we've received apologies from Alan Frost.
Thank you. And that brings us to the election of chair. I'd like to seek nominations for the election of chair. Can I have a nomination, please? Well, I'll nominate then Stuart Bartholomew. And 3 seconders. In which case...
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? No? In which case, Stuart, you're now chair again. Over to you.
Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you all, colleagues, and welcome, as Lawrence has already said, to this meeting of the Management Committee of the Russell Cotes. And item that we now turn to is the election of the Vice Chair. And I invite nominations for this post, please.
Oh, can you just put your microphone on?
Could I nominate Councillor Williams, please?
Are there any other nominations? In which case, I seconded by Fiona Winrow,
yep.
And elected. So congratulations, Lawrence, and thank you for your continuing support of the Museum and Gallery and its administration. We can now turn, I think, to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations that should be recorded? No. And then we have the minutes of the last meeting, which took place on the 29th of January. First, for accuracy, are we satisfied with the minutes as published? We are. And matters arising from these minutes. We did have the charity accounts, and I believe that they have now been submitted in the appropriate way to the charity commissioners. Thank you for that confirmation, Sarah. Are there any other matters that should be raised there which are not otherwise on our agenda? In which case, I can move to the next item, which is the Russell Cotes Museum Gallery report. And I invite you, Sarah, to present the report.
Okay, that's the right button. Okay, so I've just briefly go through the highlights, as it were, of the report for the last 6 months. So I've sort of reported from beginning of October right through to the end of March. So that's sort of end of the financial year. And it was a good 6 months. Largely, I think, because the exhibition that we had on Purbeck was a very successful exhibition. With recognisable local scenes, but done by national and a variety of national ranked artists. So it was very well received. That brought in best figures we've had for that period for some time, which is great. And they spent in the shop and the cafe. So it was so that altogether was a good period. Going down the report, just to say that I submitted the return for accreditation I think at the end of January, and we should have heard We should hear back from the Arts Council as to whether we've passed or whatever, or any response they've got within 6 months, but they've said there's a delay on it, so we should hear in August. But I'm not expecting, I mean, there will perhaps be areas for improvement, but I'm not expecting any major problems, but we'll see. We haven't been accredited, haven't done a return for 10 years, so it's well overdue. In terms of the building, actually the dry weather in the winter was rather in our favour, so we were relatively, relatively few problems. I'll go into the MEND reports in later reports, but we didn't have so many leaks because of the relatively dry weather. And some work has been done on various things like the gates and the mould. Well, the mould's still there and so on. So there are still ongoing issues, but it wasn't a particularly bad period. Actually, on terms of the dry weather, I just would like to point out to the committee that the fire risk that the Russell Cotes is currently subject to because of the dry weather. Obviously, you'll know there were 2 fires on the cliff recently. One just below the Miramar Hotel a couple of weeks ago, and then I think at the weekends, beach huts went up directly underneath the Russell Cotes, and we were very lucky on that night that it was raining and the fire brigade got there, but our staff were called out 1 in the morning to deal with the smoke. The smoke detectors picked up the smoke that was in the building, and that lasted a couple of days actually, and they came out. But obviously there's not a lot between the heath, the cliff and the Russell Cotes, so it's a matter of concern to us, obviously, that we are at considerable risk. And I have reported that into senior staff to ask whether we could be part of any kind of mitigation that the fire brigade and the council, sort of seafront services, are doing, because presumably this must be an identified risk going forward. But obviously, yeah, I just want to alert you to that. So moving into the current situation, this financial year started April. We've got the new May Morris exhibition that you may have seen at the opening, which looks great. It's a kind of different angle. Sort of, we've not really done something around textiles, embroidery, and so on before. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, it's been a bit of a quiet start to the year because the good weather isn't very good for museum visiting. So this half term has been better because of the rain. But so far, so good, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, the fun this year is going okay. It's a little bit down on last year. We're working at the moment on looking to the future in terms of exhibitions. The Artist as Witness exhibition is coming up in October. I'm literally sending the catalogue texts and images to the publisher today, so we will be doing a catalogue for that show. We've received £8,500 of funding from a sponsor that's enabled us will enable us to produce a 100-page hardback catalogue that will go with that exhibition. One thing that came out of the out of the Purbeck show was how many people asked for a catalogue. It was a beautiful show and there was no catalogue, but we don't have the resources to necessarily do that. And they don't necessarily raise, they cost more money than they make. So it's not really, it's not economic unless we can get a sponsor. We're also looking with the Artist as Witness exhibition to put in a grant to the Arts Council for a project grant to work with community groups. I think I may have mentioned it before. So we've been talking in partnership with Ukrainian refugees, the Dorset Ukrainian refugees, I think it is, Deed, you may be familiar with, and also Celeste, which is a theatre group based in Boscombe. And so we've got a proposal together, which would be about responding to the exhibition and programming some of their activities in the museum. And I've just got to get around to making an application to the Arts Council, who were supportive, but it's inevitably very competitive. So I think a challenge, as you'll imagine, is finding resources to do everything that we'd like to do, because we're quite lightly resourced. So particularly the exhibitions, we've got lovely exhibitions in the pipeline, but they are quite expensive and we have very limited resources. So if anyone has any suggestions for sponsorship, that is really kind of where we know what we need. Obviously been quite successful in terms of grants, but in terms of kind of corporate sponsorship or anything like that, that was really kind of what would be very helpful. So at the moment, I'm trying to be quite opportunistic with grant applications, but within a long-term strategy. So we've been quite successful, as you'll see from the report. We've got £30,000 from the Paul Mellon Trust to research the tempera revival, which the Russell Cotes in the 1930s was a spearhead, would you believe? And we've now employed a curator, a freelance curator, to work on that. She's sort of scoping that, potentially talking to other museums. We're actually talking to museums in America, possibly even Australia. So it has got really wide kind of ripples, that whole topic. So there is quite a lot of potential there. So that will be in 2027, the exhibition, but she's got a couple of years run up to that. We've been successful with the Hallett Acquisition Award, which I'll talk about in the next paper. Going places, so we're part of this Art Fund Rousing Trust major grant, Art Fund, Heritage Lottery and Rousing Trust. It's something like 5 million, have I got that right? £5 million project. And we'll be working with Watts Gallery and the Bowes Museum in Durham on that exhibition, on that project for the next sort of 4 years. Two small awards have just come through recently. One for bicycle racks, although that's turning out to be a bit problematic because of the risk of e-bicycles catching fire near the building, so we may not be able to do a bicycle rack. And then we've also just got a £3,000 grant to refurbish some of the sculpture plinths, some of the sculptures that are on the sculpture terrace, which you may recall is actually out of bounds at the moment because and it will be refurbished with the new MEND grant. So the sculptures that are sitting out there covered in plastic from the rain will have to move because of the redevelopment. And so we're going to move those into the conservatory so that we can refurbish the conservatory to look as it was when Merton and Annie were living there, with sculptures and plants and so on. I think that is it. I think that I wanted to say and take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and I do commend you on the detail and thoroughness of the report. You did make reference at the beginning to the success of the Purbeck show in regard to net sales, and I'm noticing that our sales for October 24 to 25 are quite substantially above those for the preceding years, although the numbers in attendance is only marginally better. But, you know, it's quite a good sign, is that attractive shows also have attractive income, you know, aside. So, you know, congratulations on that. The other matter, as I wish to raise before inviting other contributions, we have some very interesting shows coming up. And Indian soldiers in Bournemouth, I think we should be sensitive to the fact that in 1914, India, was a larger country because it included Pakistan. So since there are sensitivities in this matter, I don't know whether it needs rephrasing, but of course there would have been Sikh as well as Muslim members of the Indian Army. And we've got to be careful that that is appropriately recognised. That said, are there any other comments or questions relating to Sarah's report? No? In which case, I apologise for skipping over item 6, which is public issues. So I look to our clerk to tell me if there are any.
There are none, Chair.
Oh, good. Well, that allows us to move to item 8, the one at which we all lick our lips. Loans and disposals. Sarah.
Well, actually, it's a different type, this one. So, yeah. So there, actually, it's been a really positive period for donations to the museum, actually partly again prompted by the Purbeck show, where I think some of the items that have been donated are from people who were literally neighbours of the artists in the exhibition, and that's what prompted them to then make the donation to us. So would just like to point out in the list of materials to be donated or have been donated, I've seen them. We've got 2 paintings by Lucy Kemp Welsh, which adds to our collection of about 6, I think. So they're wonderful new acquisitions. About half a dozen prints and watercolours by Leslie Moffat Ward, who's fantastic local artist and incredibly popular, beautiful images. I think I sent some of them to you as a PDF, just so you could see the works themselves. And then Martin Brewster donated the drawing that we'd included in the Purbeck show. Oh, the Hallett Award, yes. So thanks to my colleague, Duncan Walker, who's the curator who put an application into the Hallett Independent Acquisitions Award. I went very grumpily up to London one day a few months ago because we'd been shortlisted for this award, and then lo and behold, we actually won it. So I was given £8,000, not quite in ready money, but anyway, and then sent round the London Original Print Fair to choose some works. And the one thing that was on my shopping list was Eric Ravilius, and quite literally the first room I went into, the first painting I looked at was a print by Eric Ravilius. So we managed to buy these, all these kind of works at no cost to ourselves, and they will, most of the first few will certainly appear in the war exhibition. The others, actually, one of them, the Leicester Fair one, is actually on display at the moment in the May Morris show, because she was a friend of May Morris, and so on. So some really good, fantastic opportunity there, very grateful. And then John Edgar's a sculptor, not local, I think Bournemouth, Brighton based, but who's displayed work with us, and he's donated a piece from one of his works. And Philippa Chappell, who's the wife of Stephen Chappell, has donated to us a wonderful folding screen. So this is kind of life-size folding screen with some kind of sort of pre-Raphaelite in influence by Fred Appleyard, who I think is a relative of hers. Fred Appleyard murals are in the Royal Academy. So he's a Royal Academy trained artist and sort of pre-Raphaelite pre-Raphaelite influenced, and she's donated this wonderful folding screen to the museum. So yeah, will be an interesting one to display. So we've got so very rich kind of rich donations there, most unusual and very lovely. In terms of the loans, they are, as you see, we've lent a couple to Tate for their now you see it's Women Artist Exhibition, which is really great to be able to lend that. And there are a few out on loan at the moment in various places. And something's about to go to, oh no, it's not till later, something's off to Madrid. So then it comes to the disposals, and this is an unusual one. And I think it's only the second time this has happened in the 10 years I've been here. Paddy McMeehan's widow donated this painting of Lighthouse Fields Purbeck to the museum, and I think then came to regret her decision and has asked for it to be returned. I think her husband had recently died, and I think probably was just done a little bit too swiftly, and so she's asked for it back. There's absolutely no reason. I mean, we'd love to keep it. It's a wonderful painting and completely fits within our collecting policy. But in this case, I'm asking you if you would agree for it to be returned to the artist's widow.
Do we have agreement on that? Yeah. Yes, we do. With regret, I think, because I'm not familiar with the painting other than the image that you supplied, Sarah, but, it's sad to lose it, and whether, at some future point it might be returned, we might sensitively inquire.
Yes, and she certainly offered to donate a different painting to us more. It's perhaps not so, for sure, such emotional attachment, so we'll see.
And Lawrence, you have a question.
I do. How are we not paying for some of the acquisitions? Is one part of the question. And the other part is, do we generally get these things free of charge, or have you just done a really good deal?
I mean, we virtually never buy anything because we have no money to buy anything. And we only, the only reason, and as you'll see in the associated paperwork, we only collect things that we will at some point display. We're not in the business of just trying to fill the cupboards. We've got plenty there. So we very carefully take only those things that we know are going to be of relevance and of importance. So, so these are all... Essentially, people sometimes do offer us things to buy, but we don't really have, we have very limited budget for that. So it is just generally on donations from people who, came to the museum, who loved it and want to support it.
And we should encourage people to do so.
Absolutely. And congratulations to Duncan with regard to the Hallett award and the facilitation of that list of acquisitions, which is really, really good, particularly, as you've said, the one by Eric Revillier. Sarah.
Yes, I just forgot to say, because we generally at these meetings, you put your black handkerchief on and you dispose of things. Just last meeting, we wanted to dispose of the Shelley collection, and Stuart, you suggested approaching various universities, and just to say that I think it was Sheffield University have taken, kind of boxes and boxes of Shelley books and things. So it's great to see that. So we thought they were kind of scheduled for the bin. So I think I have put in the report where things have gone when you've disposed of them.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think that those things, we were, rather than owners, we were just custodians. So we have passed them to a place where I'm sure they will be appropriately conserved and used. So good news there. I'm just looking at the preparatory sketches. They're part of the return that we've just discussed. Good. Well, thank you for that. And if there are no further questions about that, relating to that item, I think we can move to the report on repair and renewal, but the potential of the current MEND fund round for the restoration of the building, but also retrospectively, considering the restoration now complete of the conservatory and other services.
Thank you. Yes, so just a final report to you. That's the MEND, what we call MEND 1. The first project has now been complete, although there is still some snagging going on. And when I was left the museum just now, they were putting on the film, the anti-shatter film on the glass of the conservatory. So there's some bits and pieces still happening. But to say that project, which in the end went slightly over budget, just over 1 million, has been successfully completed, and all the paperwork and everything has been finished off. So as a result of it, the plants has all been entirely replaced, and now we have reliable, heating boilers, air handling units and so on. I should say this and touch some wood. And, it's noticeable that there's much less staff time taken dealing with kind of remedial issues. And also we have noticed, and it'll be interesting to see how things span out, but we've noticed at least a 10% reduction in energy costs. So, energy usage, I say, because obviously the costs are all changing around, but certainly a reduction. So, which obviously was part of the point of that. So that's good to see. The conservatory, I hope you've all been in it, looks amazing. Absolutely stunning, far even more than we had ever imagined. So that's all complete, although, as I said, snagging is still going on. And I think it will be interesting to see how we maintain it. I think the challenge will be maintaining such a difficult structure going forward. So I think in the next few weeks or so, we'll kind of put our heads together to work out kind of what that plan looks like in terms of a sort of annual kind of maintenance, and then looking at maybe planning in 5-yearly decoration of the front facade and then 10-year the whole thing. The trouble is the whole thing has to be over scaffolded, which is the cost. Anyway, so it's wonderful. Visitors are enjoying it, and we will now look, I think, at how we can sort of monetize that space as well. So we're looking at options for using it for sort of parties or cream teas or afternoon teas, birthday parties, meetings, business meetings or whatever. It's a lovely space. The interesting thing will just be again what the temperature is like there, because obviously it goes from sort of baking hot to kind of cold quite quickly. And if you book it on one day, you just don't know what the weather's going to be like. So we're just kind of seeing how it how it kind of beds down and how we can use it. So that's all complete. As I said, just a little bit of snagging that will go on for sort of for the next year, I suppose. And then just to say, because I haven't reported on the other one, obviously we have been successful with the £1.5 million grant for round 4. That will go to council tomorrow to be hopefully agreed formally by the council so that we can start work on that project. So that will turn out to be like a 1.9 million project in total. I put the application in, and the only thing they rejected was we wanted to conserve the fountain in the main hall, and as part of that, we wanted them to reconnect the fountain. Anyway, they knocked that out, unfortunately, because they didn't see that reconnecting the fountain was urgent, which it isn't, I suppose. But obviously, the work on the fountain itself is urgent. So unfortunately, that has been knocked out. So we still need, it's small fry, but we still got to find 40,000 or whatever to do that. So that was the only ththing that was taken out of that application. But that, once the council has agreed the grant, we'll be appointing the lead designers, and work on the grounds will probably start in kind of January next year and hopefully be complete within the year.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Stuart. Yes, just to say that obviously Sarah's quite right. It is going to full council tomorrow night. There's an awful lot of business on full council, but I suspect this might be one that is rather easily dealt with. Accept 1.5 million from the Arts Council or not? So I don't think that's going to be too much of a debate on that. But what I wanted to say was a couple of things. We had a scrutiny committee meeting here in this room on May the 12th, which was about cultural funding. And a lot of the debate, or a lot of the narrative around it, was the really great relationship that we have in BCP with Arts Council England. Their representatives are always down here. They are really supportive with our national portfolio organisations, with the Russell Cotes, with Poole Museum. I think we're really fortunate to have a fantastic relationship. Not just in terms of the financial side of things, but that's incredibly important, but also the support, the wisdom, the sort of guidance that we get from Arts Council. And I just think it's worth noting that I did say that at the scrutiny committee meeting, and I did say it to Cabinet when we took this item to Cabinet last month. I know we're all really grateful for all the support we get from Arts Council England. I think the other thing to mention, undoubtedly, is the incredible amount of work that goes in to putting these bids in. So all tribute to Sarah and her team, because it's great because it when it works, it's brilliant, and then we get a great result. But I know it's an incredible effort. So thank you on behalf of all of us for that. I think that's fantastic work. There was something else I was going to say, but I've completely forgotten it. So let's move on. Thank you.
Well, I think the very important part was received with acclaim, and I'd like to endorse your point about the amount of work which colleagues undertake to secure these sorts of grants. It is not easy, and the success with this particular MEND project took a lot of effort and some degree of lobbying, which again was successful, and will have measurable impact on that building, which is the first step, we hope, in many to really reclaim the Russell Cotes as one of the jewels of both the cultural as well as the physical offer of Bournemouth and BCP more generally. Lawrence.
Thank you. I just want to add, I sat on the Arts Council for 8 years, and I spent a lot of that 8 years promoting the Russell Cotes. During that time, very little happened actually, and since I finished, it's all come in. So maybe I left at the right time, but seriously, the Arts Council are very supportive. It's a hard thing to get a penny out of them, and you've done extraordinarily well to get what you've got. Thank you.
We do need to formally approve the report, Sarah, which is really to note that the project has now concluded. Are we in agreement? We are. Good. That allows us to move to item 10, I beg your pardon, which is the update on progress towards the creation of the independent charity. And I'm very pleased to report that the scheme which defines the new corporate trustee of the Russell Cotes Museum and Gallery has been approved by the charity commissioners and by BCP Council. It's been forwarded to the Department for Cultural, Media and Sport for their comment, subsequent to which there will be a submission to the Secretary of State, upon whom there may be a decision as to whether it would just require Secretary of State signature or has to be laid as an order before Parliament. If it is the latter, and that was the approach which we were informed over at the beginning of this process, I think it's unlikely that such an order would be laid before the summer recess, which means that we're looking through to the autumn months for that to be presented, which probably sets back incorporation until the earlier part of 2026. But as we are still unsure of quite the timing, we still hold the October date as a possibility, but with the January, February date, or even as late as an April date, as something more realistic. With that said, I give you the opportunity to add anything, Sarah, that you think relevant to the process in hand.
No, that's just, I suppose, alongside that, as many of you will know, the new company has now been incorporated, the new company, which will be the corporate body that becomes the trustee, or will be the trustee. So that is all in hand. So that has been formally incorporated and is kind of acting in sort of shadow sort of sense alongside, as we're trying to get things ready to sort of seamlessly happen at whatever point this happens. So that's all going on. And I suppose the only thing I would just say really is that there's a lot of work involved and it's been quite challenging. And I suppose the one I've asked here is a little bit of support. I don't think it makes any difference. I'm not sure how much difference it makes, but trying to move all the different elements forward, trying to get support out of the council to move is quite difficult. And some parts of it, people are incredibly helpful, IT, for example, whatever, and others it's more difficult. So it is really the next few months, as we're in this kind of complete limbo, everyone knows we're going, but we haven't gone, it's quite difficult.
Well, Sarah, I do endorse this, having been so close to it over many years, as indeed has Lawrence and other colleagues here. I'm very pleased that there has been a transfer of £100,000 of reserves that actually are ascribed to the Russell Cotes. They're not out of any other fund, but they have now been placed within an account which the emerging a corporate trustee can use to make some services, I think.
Well, it's agreed, but not.
Oh, I beg your pardon. It has been agreed, but needs to be transacted. But equally important is the delivery of the pension actuarial assessment, which we have been requesting for more than 6 months now. This is absolutely critical for us to know as we look forward to transferring existing staff under 2P arrangements to be employees of the new body. That information is critical, and there have been a number of impediments, it appears, to that the data being presented to the local government pension scheme for that actuarial assessment to take place. So we are looking for every support in expediting that particular matter. We are, of course, in the process of developing the legal agreements which will be necessary for the moment of transition. And of course, the importance that the new corporate trustee is independently advised. So the appointment of legal advisors and the commencement of the work that will form the basis of those legal agreements is again an important matter. With regard to ICT services, we're extremely grateful for the way in which BCP representatives have assisted in the screening and assessment of potential suppliers, and that matter is now coming to a conclusion. But those 4 matters are really very, very important at the moment. And I would hope that we could secure support to progress them. Are there any other matters, Sarah, that you'd like to draw to our attention, or any comments that members have about the process? Councillor Martin.
Yeah, just to say, I've had a number of conversations and email exchanges with Sarah, and I do endorse her concerns and her frustrations about just how challenging this has been. Yes, I'll be a little bit circumspect about that, but I know it's been a difficult time for you. I know some things have been resolved, other things remain unresolved, and I was just wondering. Well, there's 2 things really. One is, since we had that recent exchange of conversation about the pension situation, has anything moved on that? And then the other thing, just to say, look, if there's, there are 3 elected members who are involved with the Russell Cotes, and that's obviously myself, Lawrence, and Kieran Wilson. If collectively we can help to push things along or put some pressure on any more than we already have been doing, and I know there have been emails backwards and forwards and requests made. It is. I would just say, partly, as you've outlined, that there's some great work done. There have been obviously things where things haven't been quite so smooth. I suppose part of that is naturally in terms of all the complexities of local government, but also probably this is quite a new thing, isn't it, for a local council to be trying to manage and sort out. But that's not. I'm not making excuses, but I do think it's a very, very complex piece of work, and we all know, by and large, the pace at which local government is able to move. And I think actually we have moved quite a long way in the last 18 months. But yes, please, perhaps I can come and see you again, as I did a couple of months ago, and have a one-to-one and see what we can do collectively to help move things along. But because these things are getting urgent, aren't they? Or they are already urgent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You do have to note the scheme which has been approved now by BCP and the Charity Commissioners, and also the certificate of incorporation of the emerging company which will manage the Russell Cotes in due course. That allows me to move to the... Sorry? Yes. Well, the 4 points that I raised with you Are we agreed that we seek support to progress those as soon as we are able? We are agreed in that regard. The live stream, I think, can be paused now because there is a matter which is
No, that was to do.
that.
That was to do with the previous.
Oh, yes, right. In which case,
So we carry on now.
we can carry on. And I think we've really got to
Item 11, this one. Yeah.
item 11, which is the extension of the term of office of the chair. It's rather difficult to present this from the chair, and I plead that I am objective in this. The reason for the extension is that we have never been quite sure as to how long the process of transfer would take. And this is merely to cover what may be the remaining months of this committee's jurisdiction. So I think we're inviting this management committee meeting to approve such an extension.
Yeah, approved.
I think that's been agreed unanimously to my relief. Well, I'm not sure, maybe to the relief of the Russell Cotes Museum and Gallery or otherwise. That does allow me to notify you that the date of the next meeting is Monday, the 27th of October at 2 p.m. At which point I do hope we may be in a position to give a firm date as to when transfer can take place. With all that said, I am able to close the meeting, but to thank you all for your participation and contributions.